Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here. Recently, as I'm sure a few of you know, at least by now because of some of the videos I put out, I took a trip up to the Toronto area in Canada. And while I was there, I went to a lot of different video game stores thanks to a guy named Pete and my buddy Scott, aka Scott the Canadian. They took me to a bunch of stores, and I went and I picked up a lot of things. I did videos on a couple of the stores where I was able to do a whole tour of the place and then show pickups, etc. However, there were a bunch of places we went where I didn't end up buying anything, and I kind of have a policy: if I don't buy anything from your store, then I'm not going to make a video of your store. But then there were some other stores where I bought some stuff, but I didn't make like whole tour videos. There was a couple places, 1, 2, 3 specifically, that I shot a little bit of footage and also bought some stuff, and then there's a bunch of stuff over there I'm going to show you from places I didn't film any footage. But basically this is just a nice pickups video, hopefully. The first place that I have a little bit of footage of is a place called Game Swap. Now, this place was very crowded and there was a lot going on, so I don't know, I just didn't really feel like trying to film an entire video in there, so there's a quick look at it. They do a lot of stuff with like Yu-Gi-Oh cards and other things in addition to video games. They have a lot of comics and so on. So yeah, cool store. I ended up just getting a few original Xbox games there. Most of the original Xbox stuff was on clearance. There's a lot of video games on clearance in there. Nothing special here though. Tennis Masters 2003, College Hoops 2K6, and The Hustle, Detroit Streets. This was like $10 Canadian for the group, which was basically about 6 or 7 USD for the three. Nothing special, but not horrible. So then there was another store I went to called ANC Games. Now this is a big famous video game store in Toronto itself. I went there a few times when they were a smaller store a couple of years ago. And they've since moved to a much bigger location, which is a much nicer place. And despite all the times I've ever been there, I've never actually bought anything from them. So this is the first time I ever did. Again, here's a quick look at the store. Nice place. It's much bigger and much nicer than it used to be. They used to have this little like closet-sized store. It's a much better place now. And yeah, so here's a couple of things I picked up there. Monster Garage for the original Xbox. Steak Fortune Fighters. This one caught my interest because I collect a lot of original Xbox stuff, as obviously you've noticed over the course of some of these videos. So I'm very familiar with the library. Like, you'll see games in the library you see often, and you're like, do I have that? Do I not have that? You know, sometimes you have to think. I've never seen this one before. Steak Fortune Fighters. It wasn't by any means rare. I saw it all over eBay when I looked it up, but I had never seen it in person. So yeah, caught my eye, went ahead and got it. And then I got one that I'm sure a lot of you would be surprised I didn't already have. For the Xbox 360, I got Halo 3 ODST. Just never had it before. And it was on their like clearance rack, so I was like, alright, sure, what the hell? And I picked it up. I'm going to save this last one for the end of the video because this is something special, but let's move on to some other things. Now, the other stores I picked stuff up at, I don't have any footage of, so you just kind of have to use your imagination. First up, I went to a Value Village. It's kind of like Goodwill. We have them in the States, but they're much less common. But yeah, it's just a thrift store. People donate things and then they kind of clean it up and put it on the shelves and resell it. So they had a few Xbox games, so I picked those up. Well, I picked up some of them. They had a bunch of sports stuff I didn't pick up. Ironically, the first one I have, though, is a sports game. Torino 2006. Greg Hastings Tournament Paintball Maxed, not to be confused with regular Greg Hastings Tournament Paintball, and that's not a joke, there really are two different ones. There you go. And then this one was the one I was most impressed to see, Scooby-Doo Unmasked. By no means anything that special, but it's usually a $20 to $30 USD game, and they only wanted like $4.99 Canadian for it. Again, exchange rate, at the time I make this video, at the time I was up there, it's about a 70 cents to $1 exchange rate, meaning, think of it this way, if you're an American, if you see a $5 price tag, subtract 30% and that's what you're paying USD. So if the game had been $10 in USD, it would have only been 7. Make sense? So it was basically the equivalent of about $3.50, which is a huge savings on that particular game. So that was it for Value Village. Then I went to another store called Buster's, which was like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen one. Cash converters it's a store where a lot of people just go to resell electronics. It's like kind of like a pawn shop, but higher end, if that makes any sense. So they had a sale on a lot of video games. It was all buy one get one free. So I got these two. I got Turok Evolution, and I got Rocky. I'd known about this game for a while, but it's one of these like cursed games. I'm sure if you buy a lot of games or collect games, you know what I'm talking about. There's always going to be some games you see in a library where you go to a store and it's either the wrong price, or the label is sun faded, or the manual is missing, or the disc is fucked up. There's always some reason this one particular game curses you, and you never quite find it. This was the first store I found it where it met all the criteria: good shape, good price, etc. So I think it was like $8 Canadian for one game, and then the second one was free, so it really was $8 Canadian for the two, and then 30% off, so pretty good deal. Right before I left the country, I was in Sarnia, which is right over the Michigan border. I spent the night there, and in the morning I went out to a Goodwill, an actual Goodwill, which they have in Sarnia. I wasn't really expecting anything, but I had a little bit of time to kill, and I saw it, so I went in. Went over, they had some video games, and they had one that caught my eye. Dance Dance Revolution Ultra Mix 2. Nothing exceptional about this. They were having a 50% off of everything in the store sale. So naturally I looked around to see if I could find anything else, but this is the only thing that I kind of needed. They were asking $3 Canadian, then they only charged $1.50 Canadian, and then with the exchange rate, you're talking about basically $1 for the game. This is not hard to actually find for about $1 in the States, but it was right there, right in front of me, and it's in much better shape than I usually see it in, and it's not that stupid Platinum Hits version, so I went for it. Now, I went to another store called Buy and Sell, which happened to be right next to this Value Village that I was alluding to before. Now, Buy and Sell is kind of like Cash Converters or Busters, where it's just, high-end type of pawn shop thing. And they had some unbelievably good prices on video games. In fact, of all the ones I'm about to show you, I think the most I paid for it, I think one of them was like $4.99, and the rest were $2.99 a piece. So here we go. First up for the Xbox 360, Xbox Live Arcade compilation disc. I like discs like this because they're physical versions of a lot of these Xbox 360 arcade titles. Also, as a bonus, a lot of the games on there are Xbox One compatible, so you put it in, it works through that, so that's really nice to have. Samurai Showdown Sen, made by SNK and Xseed Games. There you go. You don't see that one too often, so that's nice to pick up. Iron Man by Sega. Yes, Sega made this, so that was cool to see. Of course, based on the movie. Child of Eden, which is supposed to be like a spiritual successor to Rez in a lot of ways, or so I'm told. But yeah, I hesitated to get this one just because a lot of Canadian versions of games have both English and French on them. Nothing against French or anything. It's just that I don't really like seeing it on the label, knowing full well that it could just be in English. It's not aesthetically pleasing. This was like the only game I made that exception for because it was just super, super cheap. In fact, I think this one was only $1.99 Canadian. So all these prices again were in Canadian. Again, you do 30% off. That's your USD price. Next up, this game is terrible, but I had to pick it up. Charlie's Angels for the GameCube. This, I think, is also on the PlayStation 2. The Xbox version, I think, was canceled altogether. It's considered like one of the worst games of that generation, so naturally I had to get it, because that's just hilarious. But there you go. Then the rest are original Xbox games. Rally Fusion. I actually had never heard of this one before, so there you go. Carve, which is some sort of surfing game, or motor racing game, or for water, the jet skis, that's it, the word was totally escaping me. 4x4 Evo 2, which 4x4 Evo was a Dreamcast game, so the sequel is on the Xbox. WTA Tour Tennis. IndyCar Series. And finally, Bicycle Casino. I assume I don't know anything about like professional gambling or anything. I'm assuming Bicycle is the brand because obviously it doesn't have anything to do with bicycles. But yes, licensed by Bicycle, so I have to assume that's a casino company. But yeah, those are the pickups from that. Now there's the one special pickup here. Now this special pickup came from a store called Iceman Games in Toronto itself, not out in the suburbs or anything. Now this is a game I've been looking for a really long time, and it's a game that's gone up quite a bit in value. Now they were asking a pretty average price for said game, so I went ahead and I did it. But there's something special about it. I'll show you the game first. Ghostbusters for the Sega Genesis. This is about a $60 to $70 game now. They were asking $80 Canadian. Again, with the exchange rate, you're coming out ahead. It's like $54 USD, so it's actually not bad. That's pretty good. I didn't think much of it until I got it back to the hotel, and I was just kind of looking it over. And it's mint, by the way. It's in perfect condition. And I was looking it over, and then I noticed this little, like, I don't want to call it a glitch because it's not digital, but there's like a image issue on the side here. Now if you look at the Ghostbusters logo, which I'll put up there, you see how the ghost is just in the middle there. On mine, on the side, there's this big black chunk, and it's just kind of taking away part of his body. And I was like, what the hell's that? And so I started Googling it, I was like, did they all go out like that? And I couldn't find any pictures that had done that. And as I was doing that, I was looking at the artwork for the game, and I realized my artwork is totally different. The front, there's usually text right here by the Ghostbusters logo that just explains something like 16-bit home use console game or whatever. And then on the back, it's supposed to be completely in English. Mine's in multiple languages. And then I looked into it to the extent that I could, and I realized that the package art is almost identical to the PAL version, aka the Mega Drive version of this game. In fact, it's exactly the same except for one huge difference. This says Sega Genesis. It doesn't say Sega Mega Drive. So this is a North American release, but I couldn't find any other information beyond that. Another thing that's interesting about it is the game came out in 1990, and the regular copies all say 1990 on it. Mine says 1989, which is also interesting. And when I put this into the Genesis to test it out, you know when you turn on a Sega Genesis, unless you have one of those super early TMSS free models, it'll say like something like, you know, for use with, this game is licensed with Sega's permission, or whatever the hell it actually says. And then after that, it'll show you the Sega logo. This doesn't do that. It doesn't have that screen, and it doesn't say Sega. It just jumps straight into the game. I've never seen another one do that. No, it's not like some weird pirate cart or anything like that. It's a super, super, super rare North American version of the game. At first, at one point I thought, oh, maybe this was just how it came out in Canada. My buddy Scott, the Canadian, does not, he has this game, it's not like that. I've looked it up, I couldn't find any information on it. I saw one guy had this exact same version, but his was beat to shit. And he had sold it on eBay a long time ago. That was the only information I could get on it. All he said was it's the rare multilingual version. If anybody out there has more information on this particular release, I'd love to know, because yeah, this is really cool to have picked up. So not only is it a really cool game, really hard to find game in general, but this version is like super, super rare and in unbelievable shape. So yeah, I picked that up at Iceman Games. I don't think they had any idea what it was, but yeah, I didn't know it was like super rare variant until I checked it out later. But yeah, there you go. So that's obviously the best release of this whole grouping. But yeah, there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Again, thank you to Scott and Pete for driving me around, taking me all these places. That was really cool of you. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you'll stay tuned, because I got more videos coming up with all sorts of pickups and all sorts of crazy shit that I did up there. So thank you again, and I'll see you all later.